everyone, and welcome to the Hyper Voice. I am your host, Alex Underhill, and today joining me is Chris Dazzo.
That's me.
Yeah, and also joining me is Danny Hemchand.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And so you might have noticed I actually pronounced Chris Danzo's name wrong, but Chris has had a lot of funny name jokes going on this weekend in Madison Regionals. That's where we all were, and so we're all actually together for this recording. We've got a fun show. We're going to be talking about, obviously, the main event that happened over the weekend, and a couple of other things that have just come up in conversation since when you're hanging out with a lot of other VGC players, VGC topics come up, and so thought of a couple of things to add to the show. Steven did show up to Madison Regionals, but since the three of us are together right now, we're just going to be recording just us, get something out to you guys, because we want to keep content coming out. But I guess the main thing that we're going to be talking about is obviously the main event, Madison Regionals. So that just concluded today as we're recording this. And it was a pretty fun tournament. What did you guys think? I guess, well, let's first generally talk about what did you think of the event of Madison, like just coming to Madison?
I enjoyed Madison a lot, actually. I keep talking about it. It was the best regional I've been to. The venue is beautiful. The venue is actually the most beautiful venue I've been to. Outside was great. Inside was great. Everything about it was great. Everyone was nice. In terms of how it was ran perfectly, actually. They were on time with everything. They had a schedule for it.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few issues I had, I guess. Like, they kept us on the same system as TCG.
That was a little bit weird. They don't always do that, yeah. But, yeah.
I mean, it was weird because it kept going. Like we'd finish a round, and then we'd be sitting around for like another 20 minutes or so. It kind of like gets a little draining after a while because you're like, I want to play Pokemon, and it's like you have that drive to play, and you never actually. You have to wait pretty much.
I heard that from like pretty much everybody I talked to this weekend is just, people ready for that next round. Like, I'm, undefeated so far. I want to keep this hot streak going, or I just came off a loss and it's like, but I just need to get back in the game. I don't want to be dwelling on this loss right now. And so just that idle time, I don't feel like many VGC players are a fan of it. They just kind of want to go game to game.
Yeah, but to jump on that, in their defense, I've been to regionals where the waits have been a lot longer than Wisconsin.
No, it was definitely not poorly run. It's just, it was a little weird that we were on the TCG kind of schedule instead of, being like totally separate tournaments, which it could have been, but still really well run. Like the tournament, we were done by, I don't know exactly what time on the first day.
It was about 7:38.
7, okay, and yeah, so it seemed like it could have been worse for 8 rounds, but it was good. I mean,
you got to consider we did get a lunch break also.
Lunch break.
And there was an hour lunch break, which we normally don't get.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was probably one of the biggest kudos I can give to them.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I go to regionals, and I'm so focused on the game that I don't eat all day, and by the end of the day, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And so having a break, getting to eat, I know a lot of people want to run into that next game, but a lot of times I like to think. I like to reflect, and I like to consider, I guess, my plans and options for future games.
Yeah, reflection is a really cool point.
So having that extra time. Also, shout out to the Starbucks that was like a block away because I live on caffeine.
Yeah.
And having that readily available was really good for me.
So, I guess now I'll ask you, Danny, like, what did you think of the tournament, though, in general?
I mean, I had a very similar experience to Chris. I've never been out here.
Mm-hmm.
We usually keep to about East Coast tournaments.
Yeah.
So, Virginia, Massachusetts when that was still around, Philly.
Yeah.
We've never really come out to the Midwest, and it was only this year that I actually started traveling more.
Mm-hmm.
I also went to Anaheim. Wisconsin is by far the best regionals I've probably been to.
Yeah.
In terms of the venue location, it was gorgeous. Like you in between rounds, being able to go out and just sit out by a lake.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
It's really unique about that
Yeah.
venue. It's just a beautiful place. Beautiful view.
In terms of tournaments, the way it was run, I thought it was run very well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I've been to regionals where the wait's been a lot longer than what they've gone. So the fact that I had to wait maybe an extra couple minutes for TCG to end, I'd be okay with that rather than other events where I've waited like an hour for the next.
Yeah. We got out of there pretty timely. Started at like around 8 when we were checking in and everything, and started the games at around 10. Also, I know you guys got to hear it, but I had like Veronica Taylor and Eric Stewart, I believe is his name. They're the voice of Ash from the Pokemon anime, and we had the Eric Stewart, that's Veronica Taylor, who voices Ash, and Eric Stewart voicing Brock and James. That was really cool to be able to experience. They apparently voiced the opening announcements, which I had missed because I was on stream round 1, and so I had my noise blocking headphones in.
You missed out.
Just
You
having
missed
a
out.
personal conversation with Justin Karras and the judge, but it was not like bad or anything. That was still cool. But and it's fun to get the chance to be on stream. But missing the intro, I just want to hear about it from your guys.
It was interesting. I am someone who like when I sat down, I wanted to get right into it, and I appreciated what they did. But like I could tell it was more for the kids and everything, or the true Pokemon fans. And I'm a true Pokemon fan, but like I guess it's in a way I don't.
Did it drag on?
You were in
it
game
dragged
mode.
on, and it was a little cringy, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
But I
heard it was a script.
Yeah, it was scripted pretty much, but it was really cool, and it was like she really did sound like Ash. I was at first it was kind of there, and all of a sudden like she really started to sound like him.
She
and
warmed
I
up
was
to it, I
like-
guess.
Yeah, I was like, what the? Oh my goodness, this is amazing. But then, like I said, it dragged on a little bit, and I kind of wanted to get into it. But it's still cool to see it in there. It's really, that's like something new that they brought to the table, and it's something that maybe more regionals will try to do. Maybe bring some like little outside extra thing to like really push people to want to go, and to give the true Pokemon fans like something to enjoy out of it.
I do think it was a little different at this tournament because it was actually at OhanaCon is what it was happening over the weekend, and so that was another reason that we had these celebrities are there, or like voice actors, if you want to call them that, which yeah they are, I guess. I'm not wrong in calling them that, I hope not. But it was cool that it was a convention. There was like some stands set up, and
There's
so
some cosplay too.
Oh yeah, there was a cosplay contest. Some seriously talented people there. Really cool to see people dressed up in costume because sometimes you see that like at the bigger tournaments like regionals and nationals, but not to like this extent.
Yeah.
A lot of people just showing their love for video games. I appreciate that because I'm a big video game fan, as I think we all are. If we're playing video games competitively, traveling around to play video games. So that's cool that you brought up that, and some stands set up, lots of stuff to do and look at. Really cool. I really enjoyed being at Madison. Like, it's not my first time being there. It was actually my first regional back in 2015. So it was really cool to have that be like my first experience at a regional. It just was a really nice event. It was still best of one then, so but it was
set the bar high for you though.
But yeah, like it was a really good looking place.
Yeah, I was actually.
And then went to Indy. It was just an interesting experience.
I was actually really nervous coming here because like after I booked my tickets, I was kind of like a little bit regretting it. I was a little worried. I kind of wanted to cancel, but like I'm really happy I came. They really made me feel like they kind of like gave me. I don't want to sound like harsh in a way, but they gave me hope again, and like just how well these tournaments can be ran and everything.
Yeah, I got you.
Because I remember back in 2014, these tournaments were ran a little bit better. 2015 especially, there were some tournaments that were ran pretty well.
Yeah.
But like slowly, it's kind of felt like they've been dragging on a little more, and they've been having more and more errors. And this one was just straight down to the point. Everyone was there. Everyone had a plan. They knew what they were doing. It was just like, it was new to me. And also, I never, like Danny said, I have never actually been past the East Coast for them, except for nationals one time. So I actually don't get to see as many players outside the East Coast region unless they come to us. So it was cool to see people like Andrew, like Justin Burns, like you, like it's like
hanging out right now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really cool. You don't get to see those kind of players over there.
I wanted to ask you, Danny. Since you had mentioned you had traveled to Anaheim earlier this year, and you've traveled here now to Madison, and this is something that you kind of started this year. Have you been enjoying it, traveling out to Pokemon events, getting to see people that you don't normally see?
Yeah, actually, it's cool because with Pokemon you kind of tend to build more relationships online than anywhere else. Just the name of the game. A lot of people do their practice on Showdown, or I'll message people for help on Twitter.
Yes.
And it's a lot of times I don't see these people on a regular basis. It's usually a good rule of thumb not to talk to people in your immediate area, because if you tell them your team or you build with them, they know what you're running. But I had a great excuse to go to Anaheim. My brother lives in LA.
Yeah.
So I used that as an excuse. And I went out and I loved it. It was my first time on the West Coast. I got to eat a lot of the food. Pizza sucks in California,
Okay.
but tacos are amazing.
You're a
so-
big pizza guy, so it's important to try it while you're over there.
Yeah, exactly. The venue itself in Anaheim, if you wanted a review on that, it was actually pretty small, in my opinion. But the tournament ran pretty well. If I'm not mistaken, Anaheim was run by Jen, which is our East Coast TO.
I'm not positive on that, but it sounds.
I'm pretty sure it
something she would
was,
do.
and
Maybe
it-
head judge or something.
Yeah, and it ran fairly smooth.
And then,
But it definitely wasn't a venue like right on the lake. you know?
yeah, and then we talked already a bit about Madison, your experience there. So, really cool, and yeah, it's cool. Like I like that you mentioned, meeting players online. Like that's how I met both of you guys, and it's you're two people that I would love to see at many events, but you don't always get the chance because you guys are all on the East Coast and I'm in the Midwest, and so. We don't have the same events; they don't line up as often, and so then it just becomes nationals and then potentially worlds. 2 events a year to see closer friends, and so that's why traveling I think is definitely worth it in Pokemon. To get these people to get to see these people you rarely see, and so that's a really cool part of it.
Speaking of worlds, congratulations, dude! You got your invite.
Hey, congratulations to you too, man.
Let's go.
So Chris and I both did earn our invites over the weekend. It was pretty close, for both of us. Danny is still working on it. He's here crying right now. No, I'm just kidding. But
Slowly but surely. It'll happen.
every bit counts. He still earned CP over the weekend, so working on that grind. But yeah, Chris and I was within 50 points just after gaining points in the IC over the past weekend, and then Chris, you were about how many points away?
I was at 415 before this event.
So yeah, just at 85, and so that you ended up getting top 16, and a top 16 finish puts you 5 points away, which was in a way heartbreaking because you bubbled out of top 8 by a small margin, because you finished 11th place or so. Yeah. But there was the chance, if your opponents had done well enough to improve your resistance. But you were 5 points away, and then Sunday a PC was held, and so you ended up playing in there.
And I got it. That was scary too. That PC had a lot of good players in it.
As you would expect, a PC following a pretty stacked regional.
regional.
So really cool to see a lot of strong players that come out to this event. I expected it to be bigger. We ended up with 133 Masters, and I thought that Madison was one of the more popular events of the season. I guess it was pretty small last year, if I'm talking about it in comparison. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it was kind of cool to see all these people travel out to this large event and get to compete with so many strong players, even if it is scary and threatening. At least that's what you want to be doing. You want to be competing against the best and proving yourself that you can win despite the competition.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you're playing this game and you're actively competing and you're trying to get to Worlds, you got to beat the best players. That's just the name of the game.
I love that. That mentality. And, when people talk about things kind of like CP grinching, when people go to events even though they've already got Worlds and stuff like that. I don't really believe in CP grinching. I don't think it's a bad thing because if you want to earn those points, you have to beat these strong players, the ones that are kind of like the gatekeepers. You have to beat these players that are going to do well at every event they go to, and so if you aren't beating them, are you really earning it?
Exactly.
If they want to play, then let them play. You got to beat them. It's up to you to prove that you've earned it.
I 100% agree with that. I mean, the resistance battle kind of sucks. I would argue that, I guess, with the grinching.
Yes.
Because if you get 6-2 with somebody who maybe already has their World's invite, but their resistance is better, that situation's pretty bad. But if it was a situation where you played them and they beat you,
yeah,
you didn't. Did you really earn it?
Yeah. And then resistance, isn't always in the hand of the player. You can only do so much. You can't really choose who you play, and so just how it goes, I guess. I guess you can in a way choose how you play if you choose to win or lose. If I knew Chris had won and I didn't want to play Chris, I could purposely lose. But,
that's true.
There are ways, but not optimal ways. You're gonna play who the system chooses for you, and obviously your best move is always to win, unless it's the last round or something like that. So yeah, I guess now we've talked plenty about Madison and the things that had happened at it, but we haven't talked about the actual Pokemon. Who ended up winning it all, and the teams that we saw. So Andrew Nowak takes it in the end for his 3rd regional win, the 2nd of the season. proving to be a very strong player. Just very quickly won his first regional just last year in Collinsville, and has since won 2 more. So yeah, like I had said, total of 3 regionals. Very dominant player, and using a team that looks pretty interesting. He's got I think at least 2 or 3 Pokemon unique to his team alone in the cut. So that's really kind of cool to see Andrew kind of standing out from the rest of the people in the cut and taking it all in the end.
It seems really interesting, actually. By the looks of it, he looks like he's running a Trick Room Nihilego on it. I didn't get to actually watch any of the games because I was too busy playing my own games.
Yes.
So, by the looks of it, it looks like he has like his 2 modes. He has a Trick Room mode and his Fast mode. And he's running Pheromosa, which we're going to see one other of, which with Sam, and I'm sure we'll talk about that soon.
Yeah.
The team's structured in a very offensive way, but it has like its own little unique way of keeping its momentum and keeping itself in check by the looks of it. And I actually heard that someone who gave this team or gave him a lot of inspiration for his team was Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
And it does look like a team Tommy would make. It looks very aggressive. It doesn't look like it wants to stop. So it looks like something that even if you have a defensive team, it's going to try to punch holes, and it's going to keep trying to punch holes. And I'm sure that's what the Pheromosa is for. I'm sure that's what the Nihilego is for. And I got to see the item on the Bulu, but do you guys know if it was Sword Stance or not? Because I heard a lot about Sword Stance Bulu.
I actually am not sure. Sword Stance sounds pretty cool, but yeah, I do not know what the moves were on it.
Yeah, I don't either. I wasn't really watching the stream too much.
Yeah, you were also busy playing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It could work. Sword Stance could very well work because he does have a fake out mode.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With the Hariyama, so a fake out plus Sword Stance situation could work.
Yeah, opinion on the team, Danny?
Looking at the team, it's actually pretty unorthodox. The first thing that pops out to me are the 3 psychic weakness, and
the resists.
No resist.
wait, there are no resists.
I would definitely want to look back at the replays and see how he went about beating the Lele's.
Yeah, he played Justin.
There's only one, and he actually played just in the top 8.
Yeah.
He did pull that, and he played him twice, I believe, because I believe they did play in Swiss on the first day,
Yes,
which Justin ended up winning.
Yeah, Justin did win.
But funnily enough, I remember hearing like a quote going around over the weekend that Andrew had told Justin, like, "I won't lose to you again" or something like that. He said he had it figured out, and he wasn't lying. It did go to 3 games, but Drew did prove that he knew what he was going to do when he refaced Justin. And despite the team's seemingly weakness to Psychic, it kind of overcame it.
And it could go back to, I guess, the concept that the team is very offensive and momentum based, and it could have just been that Andrew was just punching and punching and punching, and eventually he got through.
We do know that Justin was running a Scarf Lele, which I think gives him a little bit less flexibility in the matchup versus Drew. While I think it was very good because it outsped only the Nihilego because of the speed tier he was using. But it was kind of interesting because if you guessed wrong, there were a lot of things on Drew's team that could just really like threaten that Lele for big damage. And so once you like lock into a move, or if you choose to click Psychic into a protecting target, that Lele is very threatened from the other slot. And so if Justin wasn't, predicting it correctly, he could have fallen behind in a way like that.
So I'm looking at these teams, and I'm actually very interested now because one of the things I like about Bulu is its ability to just take on some common Pokemon, such as every other Tapu. Bulu does win 1-on-1 against every Tapu. And if we see here, there's only one team with a Bulu on it, and it's the winning team. This is the second time Bulu's actually won a regional now. Bulu has an issue with Arcanine. And if we see here, there's literally, I think 6 Arcanines, right? Yeah, there's 6 Arcanines in this top cut. And this issue is bad unless you have, the solution of Nihilego, Araquanid, and then he has his own Arcanine as well. Not
to mention Special Pheromosa, which Arcanine does not live Z-Focus Blast unless you are running a crazy EV spread, so...
even Hariyama in Trick Room mode, if that's Flame Orb, which I would assume it is, close combat's going to do a lot to that.
Yes, yeah.
So all I'm trying to say is he has like a lot of these answers for these I'm seeing right now, because he also has the Arcanine and the Pheromosa. to help against his, and actually I guess in that sense he also has a Hariyama, and he can sub Trick Room and deal with that too, for Kartanas. And I'm just looking at everything we're seeing here, and a lot of teams aren't actually really looking like they're prepared for Araquanid and Trick Room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess Gigalift helps, but there's actually only one, surprisingly actually, there's only one Gigalift in Top Cut. And that was actually the one team he played too. That's it.
And he ended up beating it. It's
Wow.
funny that you mention that the Trick Room mode in the Araquanid, because from what I had seen, Drew was just bringing these first 4 Pokemon on the list here: Bulu, Nihilego, Pheromosa, Arcanine. He just kind of stuck with that core the whole time, and he would mix up the leads and so. But I had actually never seen Hariyama or Arcanine come out of him. I didn't catch anything of his Swiss matches because I was playing in the first day. But in the second day, while I was watching stream, Drew was just rolling through people with this core 4 that he seemed to have. A lot of people have been talking about the 2 beasts on his team, Nihilego, Pheromosa, just being such a damaging and scary combo. He had the berry on Nihilego, so not running the most offensive berry like Life Orb or something, but just the combination of their sheer offense proved to be like really hard to deal with, especially either in the early game, taking away KOs and trading, I guess, for valuable Pokemon, or in the late game when you had no more switch-ins to such high damaging moves.
I mean, probably the scariest thing about playing Ultra Beast in general is the Beast Boost ability. So you don't necessarily have to have the most offensive Nihilego. If you can score a knockout, get a special attack boost, and then sweep from there. A lot of that can be just proper positioning and just proper chipping, getting a knockout, and then all of a sudden you blow through the rest of the team.
It's funny that you mentioned Beast Boost, because that's a perfect segue into Sam's team, Dr. Fidget.
I actually have something to mention right now. So I didn't even think about this, but so Dr. Fidget's running a team of 6 UBs, and I actually ran a very similar team early on in the format. And I even though I thought it was like cool and it was super offensive, and if you played it right, you would always just rip through teams in probably 3 to 4 turns maybe at most. I always thought the main thing about that team was the Pheromosa and Nihilego combo, because they're so offensive and they're so fast, and they actually cover each other really well.
Yeah.
And now I realize that Andrew actually had the same too. So maybe there's something in there, because a lot of teams are going slow bulk, or they're going fast offense. And not a lot of teams have that bulk anymore to take on something like a Pheromosa plus a Nihilego duo. And that might be why Samuel actually did so well this weekend, and actually top cutting with 6 UBs of all things. Like Guzzlord, I never thought I'd see a Guzzlord in top cut.
Yeah, I remember talking to him, and he said that he didn't regret not having Buzzwole, and he had only brought Guzzlord to like a couple of matches, like 1 or 2. But he said that when he brought it, like it really shone, and like in the team matchups that it was like built for, it really you put in the work. So yeah, just a really quick to mention, he was missing just Buzzwole. There are 7 UBs in the decks, or I guess just in existence right now, and so we got Celesteela, Guzzlord, Kartana, Nihilego, Pheromosa, and Xurkitree. Lots of just hard-hitting offense, and I mean, well, you don't have a whole lot of variation, because all these Pokemon have pretty much every single beast has an Achilles heel, except Celesteela. I mean, when you take away a little bit of speed, it doesn't care. Celesteela is just kind of ridiculous. But all the other ones, have some kind of like Achilles heel where, like an obvious flaw, an obvious weakness that you can exploit. And it seems that apparently they kind of cover each other, and if you just throw them all together, despite also the team having 6 of the same abilities, because every single beast has Beast Boost. But that means, every time that you take a knockout, you get a boost.
Yeah, exactly.
And, if you want to win in games, you're going to have to take some knockouts. But that means, if you can just take knockouts, play offensively, you're going to start rolling, pick up 1 KO early, and even if you end up losing a beast in the process, you have another beast at +1. And when you have things with such amazing offensive stats, it can be really dangerous.
I think this is actually I'm afraid to say this because I don't want this to be the case, but I'm going to say it anyway because, I'm a man of the people, so I tell the people what I think.
Oh, no.
If there's one thing I see from this top cut, and from watching the teams that we saw, it's that it seems like everyone's more going toward, or the teams are doing well at least, are moving more towards I'm going to go aggressive, I'm going to hit hard, hit fast, and I'm going to force you to play my game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess the best example, besides the 6 UBs, which is literally just all offense, besides the Sully, but even Sully, I don't know what kind of Sully he ran. He could have ran autonomized for all I know.
Yeah.
Besides,
MZ.
besides that, like, I'm pretty sure there were at least 2 Skydrop Cocos,
Yeah.
and the most notable one I saw was Justin Karras, who with you actually got.
Yeah, I got the full face of it at least twice. Justin did it to me, and then I played Mike Selesky using the same team later. So I know what you're talking about. But Skydrop,
the Skydrop plus the Sword Stance, because they're both so fast that
Swords Dance from Kartana.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden you drop it, they can't protect. The Kartana's going to get a kill. It's at +3 now, and depending on what they dropped, it's like you could lose something big. Like Arcanine. Arcanine's supposed to be the counter to Kartana. If they Skydrop it Sword Stance, it's dead next turn. It's gone.
Yeah.
And
yeah, there's not really a whole lot you can do, especially when you have a free slot to target into. When you're Skydropped, you can't protect.
Exactly.
And so yeah, if your Arcanine is lifted into the air, that is probably not going to end well for you. Your Arcanine is trapped in, and unless you have something else to threaten the Kartana on the field, which a lot of teams don't. They kind of solely rely on Arcanine to deal with Kartana and maybe hope that they're getting enough damage with the other things through Chip. You are going to lose things to boosted Z moves being such a huge part of that kind of team. Just Skydrop plus Z fighting are really cool. We actually saw Ken also have that on his team. Yes. Funnily enough, Ken also used fake PG in a way, but with a G asterisk G, because it wasn't actually Gigalith that a lot of people talk about, the fake PG. It was Garchomp, but also using that same combo that we saw Justin Karras use.
It's interesting because if you look at all so we were just talking about how Kartana, there's people are relying on the Arcanine for it. I don't know how many are exactly Assault Vest, but I know at least 3 of them are Assault Vest and Top Cut. So we have 3 Assault Vest Cocos in Top Cut, right? And I'm pretty sure that most of them are running HP Fire. So I'm pretty sure people are now leaning towards HP Fire Coco for their Kartana matchup. And so they're giving themselves extra faster answers, and that might be something that we have to look into to deal with these faster teams. Because in the end, the best way to beat a fast Pokemon that's frail is to just either outspeed it and KO it, or underspeed it but be bulky enough so that way you can live the hit and KO it. And it seems to be that we're having a hard time actually living these hits now because of the Sword Stance, because of the Z move, and people are figuring out all these new little special techniques, like if I Helping Hand, I'll KO you with a Humbling now.
Yes.
And stuff like that. So it might be interesting because Coco, the Pokemon that was known for being Life Orb and fast and hitting hard, is now becoming the support Pokemon that it fills all these little,
almost like Thundurus.
Yeah, almost like Thundurus in a way, where it just fills all these little roles and it can still do the damage because it has the electric terrain.
Yes.
And then if it doesn't have the electric terrain, it can Volt Switch out. So it's
it's becoming such a support Pokemon. You guys are talking about it being like Thundurus. I almost think of it as kind of like Raichu from last year, like Wolf's Raichu. Just having so many things that it can be doing on the field to support the team. And something else that I wanted to mention, you're talking about Hidden Power Fire being something that a lot of people are using to deal with Kartana. It seems that every meta kind of trends to something like that. While Kartana isn't the number 1 Pokemon in usage, we saw in the past format, Groudon would get HP watered, and so because Groudon is such a threat, it's worth it to run a Hidden Power type solely for it. And then you saw in years before that HP Ice, for Landorus being number 1, and then before that HP Ice for Garchomp being such a big threat that year, and so. Once Pokemon start to trend towards the very top, that's when you see the hard counters come out. A lot of these very strong Pokemon do have exploitable weaknesses. Kartana has a very obvious one in being a quadruple weak to fire, and Hidden Power being so easy to cover with it. So, yeah, I think that's kind of cool to notice that it's it just keeps happening over and over again. No matter the format, we're going to find something that's going to do well and have some kind of exploitable weakness, so just tack on a Hidden Power.
Remember back in 2014 when you'd have a Garchomp and they'd have a Kangaskhan, you'd be like, oh, they have to take a lot of damage, and then they'd Ice Beam you?
I don't remember too much Ice Beam Kang.
I've been Ice Beam before.
There was Ice Punch for a little bit, too.
Well, that was 2015,
yeah, that's
right?
2015.
Yeah, that was 2015, yeah.
That's real funny.
Good
and
times.
I think one of the things that I noticed here was that the top 8 actually didn't have a fake PG team, which happened to be pretty prevalent before Madison.
Oh, you're right.
I see variants of it, like Justin had Lake PG.
Yeah. For Tapu Lele.
And I see variants of other teams. Ken had a variant from what it looks like, except he didn't have the Gigalith.
Just the wrong G,
Yeah,
he just misspelled Gigalith.
I guess that's the fake PG of the top cut.
It is. It's still there, if you're talking just straight letters, fake PG's still here. But Garchomp's not Gigalith.
One team worth noting, I think, is Terry Hong's team, which is a variant of Hayden McTavish's team.
Yes.
He actually replaced the Garchomp, I believe, with Coco.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure what item he was running on that, but it looks like he could have very well done that Sky Drop plus Swords Dance Kartana tech as well, while still having a similar team to Hayden's, which was the Curse Lax. I know that the Marowak was fast for Tailwind, so it looks fairly offensive.
Yeah, it's really weird to think, you see a team with the mentioned Mons, Feeny, Kartana, Mandibuzz, Marowak, Snorlax, and then a Garchomp rounding out the team. And somebody looks at that and says, Coco could, maybe be better here. I don't really know Coco and Garchomp, but it could have very well been something of his own, we're seeing a lot of teams becoming, very standard. We talk about fake PG being all over the place. And, when so many people come up with, fake PG, you got to imagine that not everybody came together and said, let's all use fake PG. A lot of people might have reached it in different ways through testing different things. And so Terry's team could have been his own kind of flavor and just ended up looking a lot like it. Because, like I mentioned, Coco doesn't seem too similar to Garchomp. But I do know the item on that Coco because he had a very famous turn on stream. But he had Z Nature Power. And so he was Normalium on it with Nature Power to run with his Coco and run with his Feeny, which is a cool combo you get to see. But he played against Drew in top 4, and there was a big turn where he went for Z Nature Power as Bulu had switched in.
Ooh.
And went for a nice Bloom Doom into an Arcanine. And so, yeah,
How much did that end up doing?
it actually did 25%. It's still it's still terrain boosted. You got to consider that. It's an energy ball, so I think that's like a 160 base power Z move plus terrain. Arcanine took it really well, but I mean it's still all right damage. And Terry did end up losing to Drew. I mean Drew won the whole thing, but that was a really funny turn to see it backfire, especially considering, you see you see Coco and Feeny, I think, most often nowadays, at least in tournament top cuts. And so it's normally not going to backfire going for Nature Power with a Coco on the field or a Feeny on the field. But in that situation, it did, and it backfired hard.
Yeah, I was actually told... I believe the main people who started the trend of Nature Power were the Smogon crew.
Oh, Smogon crew?
And I talked to them a little bit, and they actually said that they kind of stopped using it because of its inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually understood that in a way because I felt that it was kind of hard sometimes to keep your terrain up. Because there would be times where I wanted to go for the Z Twinkle Tackle, and I couldn't go for it because of the situation I was in where I didn't get the Moonblast off, or I wanted to go for Z Thunderbolt, but I couldn't because my terrain was gone at that point. So it makes a lot of sense to me. But at the same time, I mean, it worked for me. Got top 4. So I actually don't expect Nature Power anymore. So when I get Nature Powered, it's like, whoa, what just happened? I got thrown off big time there. My Garchomp was supposed to live a Dazzling Gleam, not a Moonblast.
We saw in some regional cuts, people running Farium Z Coco. I feel like we saw that pretty popular a couple months back.
Paul Chua.
And Paul Chua was running that. But then, Paul Chua has been becoming a huge advocate for now Electrium Z.
Yes.
Being able to, just take out Arcanines and, doing huge damage to anything neutral to electric or especially super effective. And so you kind of get the best of both worlds with this. And to boot, the Twinkle Tackle is stronger, I believe, in base power just because you're using Moonblast instead of Dazzling Gleam. So it's really cool. Obviously, like you had mentioned, Chris, you need a lot more control to be able to pull it off, and there are situations where one is going to be better than the other. But yeah, Terry really proving that Z Nature Power is a really worthwhile option to consider, and it's really cool that it ended up working out because I really like the concept of Nature Power in this format, being able to go for different types of moves depending on the terrain, which is the name of the format this year.
I guess something else interesting to mention is So going into this format, we actually thought that one of the biggest Pokemon was going to be P2. And P2 is still big, it's still around, it's on fake PG and stuff. However, a lot of teams are starting to run things like Toxic to beat out these stullier teams too. And if you notice here, there's actually only 3 Porygons. And that might be because people are running Toxic on some random Pokemon. Like I saw Toxic on Arcanine a few times.
Yeah.
And other people are running Toxic on their P2 and it becomes a Toxic Stalwart. And then other people are just running Taunt. So people are running like all these different options that like kind of hurt the P2. I mean, good example. Justin Karras has Skydrop plus Sword Stance. Skydrop to P2, can't switch out. You can take KO next turn, they don't get Trick Room.
Yeah.
And then he also benefits from Trick Room too because he has the Gigalith. Which is probably why we see like 3 Curse probably, and then a horse too. We see a Mudsdale. So that's interesting. And a Hariyama actually, now I think about it.
I actually don't think that Kazuki's team, the number 8, was a Crystalax. It doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
It's paired with a Mimikyu.
You know what you expect with Mimikyu.
Oh, never mind. I just saw the Mimikyu
So
there.
I think that's a belly drum.
Yeah.
That's an interesting. That's a pretty common team from back in the day. That's pretty interesting that he actually did so well with it.
If he played a line of people that weren't prepared for Mimikyu Snorlax, which I mean that's the name of the game with those kinds of teams. If they're not prepared, belly drum Snorlax just blows through a team.
It's great for those early rounds of regionals, just psych up your +6 and just kind of, attack with very strong and, hard to take down Pokemon. And the other 4 that we had mentioned were Koko, Celesteela, Arcanine, Garchomp. Just a very common core that we've seen around. I think it's even mentioned in like a Trainer Tower article. Just as this like good stuff's kind of core. You're taking 3 of the top Pokemon and then one of the bulkiest Pokemon in Celesteela, just mashing them all together, and they're gonna work. And so if you add it with a duo, we've seen I know Salamence, Patrick Smith ended up cutting with this at an earlier event, and I know we've seen it at least a couple of times before that. So. I don't know, just you take a lot of the best Pokemon in the format and, add them to a very threatening duo, you're going to end up with some good results, I'd say. Something I wanted to mention, since it applies to all of us in terms of the Madison Regional, is we all used the same team with, our minor tweaks here and there, but all 3 of us were streamed at the event for anybody that hadn't watched it, but if you did, you would notice that all 3 of us had the same 6. We were all on stream at some point. Chris was even on stream twice. We had a very, impressive record of 1 in 3 on the stream, which means all of us lost. Chris, ended up winning in his won in his first shot on stream. Proving that the team is at least, somewhat valuable. Didn't make any cut, but, I'm sure we made an impression on all the stream watchers because they're like, what is this team? And so, like, a lot of people are probably thinking, like, what is going on? Like, did they work together and stuff? We did. We're all together. If you're listening to this, it might seem pretty obvious now. You can put all the details together, but we did work on it. The team is called TCG Fam because that's just the acronym, and VGC players love acronyms, and so that's the one that I ended up working out for it. So it is, I guess, since I'll mention the full 6, it was Togedemaru, Celesteela, Garchomp, and then Fini, Arcanine, Mandibuzz to spell out TCG Fam. And we all ended up using it. And so the concept that I wanted to talk with you guys, since it's something somewhat new to me, but I've done it before, is using the same team as another competitor at an event. We all brought the same team. We all knew we were going to be there, but we all brought it anyway.
So this is actually something I've done quite a few times. I am not usually someone to use someone else's team. I usually build my own teams, and I'm not calling you out, Danny, but Danny...
You're totally calling him out.
Danny likes to use my teams, and, I mean, obviously, it's good. It's cool, because when you have someone else using your own team, you get like different like sides of like how it's used. Because Danny and I aren't the same player. Danny and I play different. I see games differently than Danny sees games. So for most of these events I've been going to with Danny. Danny and I have used the same team, and we've come out of it with different results depending on whoever does better. Sometimes Danny does better.
Wow,
sometimes
that
I do
sounds
better.
amazing, Chris. Just that concept of silly, like, sorry, I'm just mocking you because I can, but you said we both get different results depending on who does better, and I'm like, well, yeah, that is normally how it goes, right?
Well, no, I'm getting mocked again. I'm getting mocked all day.
I'm known for mocking Chris Danzo because, that's just how we are. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Chris. Go back on. You were talking about how, that you guys get different results with the teams, and so...
Before I go into that, I guess I should say that Danny and I did use the same exact version. We had no differences. You did use different spreads than us.
Yeah.
Our spreads had different... Our spreads, we had different motives with them.
Yes,
Such as, like, our Finnies were different. I know that. Our Sullies were
Mandibuzz, too.
different. Mandibuzz was different. But...
Togi was different. We put the 4 in different spots.
Yes.
The 4 EVs left over.
The team itself, even though none of us top cut, I mean, I came pretty close. I got top 16. And I
you in a way
got,
bubbled,
Yeah, but I got top 16 at 2 events, at 2 regionals with this, because I used it back in Virginia.
Oh,
too.
yes.
I used the same exact 6, no changes at all. Despite thinking about changes, I didn't change it. And overall, the team was really cool. I'm not one to really think about using a team with double steel or any double typing unless it's flying, and then I have Earthquake with it. But this team,
we did have double flying also.
We did also have double flying.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
The team itself was amazing. I'm sure Danny would agree. Danny got quite a few points with it too, and I know you got you sealed your invite with it. Using the same team as someone it's interesting because it's kind of scary because I know Danny. What happened was Danny actually played a lot of people I played in Virginia, so there's like I think at least 2 or 3 rounds where I would have played someone last round, and Danny would be like, okay. You just played him. What does he have? What was your plan? What was your thought process? Because going into it, you might think, oh, well, that gives Danny an edge. But he already knew everything on Danny's team that I brought. So at that point, it's kind of like it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic, and that's the scary part because Danny could have played someone, and then I could play them, and then I'm like, well, now they know the strategy behind it, and they might have a plan if they ever fight us again.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. My round 7 opponent from Madison, when I sat down at the table, actually said, "Oh, I played Chris Danzo earlier. I know exactly what you're going to do."
Yes,
and I had to react to that. We have the luxury of that. Chris and I play a different style, so it's not a game. Even though we play the same team, a game between us is not going to be exactly the same. I always think that I like to think that I play a little more offensively than Chris does. Chris is more into locking down positions, where I'm more into creating offensive pressure and then adjusting accordingly from there, hopefully taking something out in the process. So even though we use the same team, same spread, everything, our games were probably very different.
Like a good example, like I could 4-0 someone and then Danny could come in and say I just barely won, or Danny could lose to someone and I could beat someone. Like example, Ashton. We both played Ashton in the regional. Danny ended up just barely losing to him on stream, and it was a really good set. And Danny just barely missed out on it. I ended up 2-0ing Ashton, and I'm not trying to call out Ashton or anything. Ashton's a good buddy of mine, but it just shows how different it can be. I mean, I know it's different players. You played Justin Karras on stream, and you just barely lost to him. Danny played Mike Selesky, who used the same team as Justin, actually, and Danny actually 4-0 swept him. Convincingly. So, it sometimes depends on the player. Cause
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure you play differently than me and Danny, because you have your own unique thought process to the game, too. Like, it's very unique how you think of the game and how you look at things.
Yeah.
So...
I would argue it's that way for every player, yeah. And so, you give the same 6 to anybody. No, I'm not, joking. It's just, if you give the same team to everybody, it's not going to be played the same way.
Exactly. So it's cool, because you get, different, example, Danny and I were, because we're using the same team, we can ladder together. If Danny watches one of my games, he gets ideas based off of it, and then we talk about thought processes and everything going into it. And it can hurt, it can help, depending on, where your head is during that situation, because obviously there's some times where I have something in my head where I'm I want to make this read, but Danny's like, no, if I do this then it's a lot safer, and sometimes it works out for one of us, but then we can learn from that and be like, why did he think that? And so using the same team, it's interesting. It's really I like it, but at the same time it's scary.
Yeah.
And what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that I actually like the idea of us being able to ladder together with the same team, because between the three of us, we can each tell each other, "Oh, this worked for me. This did not work for me," and discuss it and talk the matchup out and plan accordingly. So that for future reference, let's say you played something and you tried something and it happened to work for you, you let me know. Maybe I didn't know about it. Well, now I know and I have a plan if I approach that team.
You cover so many more options in practice if you are running a team with other people. When all three of us are using the same team and we all practice, we're gonna fight different people. We're gonna fight people who maybe have seen the team again and like played it a different way, and so you're gonna learn how to play against people who don't know the team, people who do know how to play the team, and we're just gonna find all kinds of different strategies that maybe the other players didn't even get to experience in practice, and so that's a really huge plus of it. And obviously, when you trade and share that feedback with each other, the team grows in strength, and you can tweak it, adjust it, and that's why team building with other people is really a huge plus. And it's great to find people to work with, especially like ones that share your style, at least close enough that you guys can use the same six, so that you guys can bounce ideas off of each other and find what works and what doesn't.
It's actually very interesting because going into building this team, I've been working on a team similar for a while. And at one point I started with Lele, and it was like I don't like Lele that much. I'm not a big fan of Lele. I'm still trying to figure out how to make it work. So I went back to Finny, and I was liking Mandibuzz, and because of how I am as a person in a way, I'm kind of OCD about specific things sometimes. And one of the things I'm kind of bad with is putting two of the same type.
Yeah.
So I thought about putting Celesteal on the team for a while because it was kind of like it helped with the Garchomp matchup and it like kind of solidified a lot of things. But after like debating on it and having my team builder and everything, I actually ended up going against Sully for a little bit and going with Ninetales. And you saw me use Ninetales actually.
Yeah.
And you were like, this team is very interesting. It's very similar to mine. And you came to me and you said, if you want to, you can try my 6. And I saw you had the Sully. And I was like, I was a little iffy because, like I said, I'm not very good with just putting a team on with two of the same typing because I feel like I'm not getting as much out of it. But then, I mean, you definitely showed me because after testing, I ended up sticking with it.
Yeah.
It's like something I shouldn't worry about. And obviously, if I was team building by myself, I would never have. I probably wouldn't have tested it because I'm a big theory person. And when something like comes in that's like it's like brilliant in my head, I'm like, this is perfect. That's when I start testing. And a lot of the time it's like I feel like I'm giving up a lot because I'm holding myself back because of like things like obviously having two of the same type. So that's one of the benefits of having people team building with though. They give you more ideas. They basically can just bounce off like your thought process and help you improve something that is already good and make it great. And I feel like that's what you did. And I feel like as we started working out like matchups and Danny and I started like talking about like spreads and everything, it came out to what the team was, which was the team that actually got me almost half my invite and solidified my invite. And I'm very happy with the team, and I think it's probably one of the best teams in the format right now. Even though it did not get the results we wanted to, there were a few things that were in our way going in, but in the end I think it performed great. Like I said, 2 top 16s.
Yeah.
I think got 2 top 32s. It's got a lot of PC
I got top
results,
of the IC with it.
IC results. I had an IC result with it too. It did a lot for us, and I just think it's a really great team. And I wouldn't have been able to get there without team building with you guys. So
I think another thing on top of that we should discuss is actually I know that a couple people ran Justin Karras' team also. That Lake PG style team.
Yeah.
With the Assault Vest Coco. And it's cool. It's cool to see how we kind of came up with the idea together. I know that with Justin, it's more like people took the team from him, like he passed the team.
Yeah.
And I know Justin likes to do that because he likes to get different perspectives.
Yeah.
So while we were kind of fell upon our discovery and kind of built up from there, he purposely gave it out so that he can get back more information.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting concept too.
And something I wanted to mention about what Chris had said. He was kind of scared to use the team because he had already had like a flying type and he already had a steel type. Not only is Togi barely a steel type, but
That's true.
That's true.
but the thing that I really wanted to mention is it's just kind of like one of those I remember reading an article back on Nugget Bridge in the day called like cognitive biases, and while most of them were talking about don't be afraid to use the best Pokemon, which I definitely believe you shouldn't be. Like if you see Coco winning every game, use Coco. Like you try to play to win. Like that's what people should be doing. But one of the other things that like Chris was kind of talking about is don't be afraid to double up on like types and use a Pokemon that might not seem right on the team, because sometimes it just works. Sometimes like one team that I don't want to to my own horn or anything, but like my regionals team, I just kind of added the Pokemon that I felt like needed to be together, and I ended up with 3 type overlaps. I had 2 steel types in Togedemaru and Celesteela, and I had 2 electric types in Koko and Togedemaru, and then 2 flying types in Celesteela and Gyarados. And so I had a lot of similar type overlaps there, but I felt like all the Pokemon filled the roles that they needed to. And so, if a Pokemon seems right for the job, then just add it and give it a try, and I don't know, just see where it goes. If that thing that you were worried about ends up being true, then you learned your lesson. You don't play with it anymore. But if you end up proving yourself wrong and discovering something even better, it really ends up paying off.
I think one thing I want to add on top of that is that type overlap doesn't necessarily mean a type weakness.
Yes.
It does in a way, but for example, in the case of Togedemaru and Celesteela, they actually cover some of their weaknesses.
Yes.
Togedemaru covers the electric weakness, while Celesteela covers the ground weakness. So now all you have to do is cover the fire.
Yes.
So even though we had type overlap, it still synergized well. So I definitely believe that even if the types tend to overlap, if you cover the options, it should be okay. I think a good example of that is how prevalent Charizard plus Heatran actually ended up getting in 2015.
I remember
that was a thing. And they actually they covered their weaknesses. And even in that case, Charizard Y had Drought to cover the water weakness.
That's true. I forgot about that. That's a good point.
And that's kind of in a similar way to Lightning Rod, protecting Celesteela from the electric moves with Togedemaru. Something else that I wanted to mention before we start wrapping up, like an interesting thing was the shirt dilemma that ended up happening on stream in the event. I just wanted to briefly talk about it because it was a fun little thing that made the event unique. And although I say fun, I definitely don't think it was a really cool thing to do. I definitely think it was pretty lame of Pokemon. But Leonard Kraft goes by DeWaddleFed Online, who we've had on the show before. Ended up getting on stream in one of the later rounds and was wearing a Charizard shirt, which was actually like the official like Global Link art for Charizard, and it was made like it was like I'm pretty sure like an official Pokemon shirt, but something like the manufacturer wasn't like, I don't know, like official Pokemon or something. There was something really weird, and so they ended up pulling him in the middle of a turn to put on the shirt that they make everybody wear if they're not wearing a stream appropriate shirt. Just to change shirts in the middle of a turn. And I honestly think that is like the factor that puts it above everything else, is just the fact that it's in the middle of the turn. The shirt, I think, was definitely something that could have been fine to see on stream, but you can't pull somebody in the middle of the match to change shirts, especially something as small as that.
I agree. At least in between games,
Mm-hmm.
if that were the case. I actually thought it was funny because I actually did end up on stream. I believe it was round 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
It was fairly early. And they checked my shirt before I went on.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I wonder if somebody actually checked his shirt, and if so, if they checked his shirt and said it was okay, I don't think it would be okay for them to just pull him and make him wear another shirt.
Yeah, they probably checked him beforehand and then maybe got an okay from someone, and then somebody else was like, "Oh wait, that's not okay." But I mean, what did they see that they just said like that's not okay? It's just a Charizard shirt.
I don't actually know much about this situation, so I don't have much to add, but it's kind of basically Pokemon's a game about information, and you gotta get everything you can out of a turn, and you gotta know what happened and what's going on. So it's like, and you have a lot of concentration going into it. I know when I'm playing, if someone tries to say something to me while I'm playing, it cuts my concentration, I'm done. And then like I have to like get myself back in the zone. So even before games too, actually, like I'll sit there, I'll look, and then if someone breaks concentration, I'm like, oh shoot, where was I? Where's my thought process? So like, if someone did that to me in the middle of a game, I'd be like in such a weird spot mentally,
Yeah.
and I feel like it was so like that's why I think it's so wrong, because I don't know what kind of player he is. He actually seems like really like
Methodical.
he's like as a person he seems like he's very like easygoing.
Yeah.
He was probably like making a joke out of it, and he's
Yeah.
probably okay with it. But if it was like me or something, like I feel like it would have been a lot worse. I don't know how his end reaction was though, but however it was like still I don't think it was cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And so that's really strange to see. Yeah, I don't really know if there's much else to say about it, but I thought it was worth mentioning on the show just because, it's something that happened in Madison, and we probably won't talk too much about the event after this. So I guess the last thing that I do want to talk about before we do wrap up here is just that there were a number of World's invites gained over this weekend. Chris and I had mentioned that ourselves had gotten them, but also over the weekend, Justin Karras ended up getting his through a combination of the Premier Challenge. I guess the same way Chris did it, through the main event. Through the main event and the Premier Challenge.
Plus the IC too.
Plus the IC.
Winning the IC helped him too.
Yeah, Justin did win the IC, which is an incredible feat, so that's really cool. Congrats to him. And then the other person at the event in Madison was Terry, I believe. Terry Hong, who ended up getting top 4, which I think he told me was exactly enough
to
get him his invite. So
he needed top 4 for his invite, and he actually achieved it.
So that's really cool to see that goal for an event, especially such a high up goal. A lot of people talk about like, oh, I need top 16, top 32, or maybe even top 8. But like top 4 is one echelon higher than that. I don't know if that's even the right word, echelon, but anyway, I'm just throwing out words here. And then another tier.
If we're talking about invites, I believe Drew, because of this win, he put himself in top 8, so now he's in the running for a day 2 invite.
Yeah,
which is really impressive.
Yeah,
he
that's
can fight
pretty.
For that.
That's really cool for him. Proving to be just one of the top American competitors, and sneaking into that like potential day 2. A lot of people had given up on that because they weren't on the CP Snowball, as we like to talk about it. But getting into it through only American events, we've really only seen something like that from like Nick Navarre. While he did get to ride the CP Snowball, he only has one national finish, so. It's interesting to use him as an example, and then Ken. Ken has not left America, I know that for sure.
Gavin Michaels.
And so, Gavin Michaels is also a person up there.
Yeah, I think he went to Brazil, but he bubbled, right?
He might have gotten CP though.
I think he got 17th.
No, he got.
I think he got 17th and missed CP.
Yeah, something.
I'm pretty
did he miss CP though?
I'm pretty sure he missed CP.
Oh, okay.
I remember the Dragon Tail miss.
Yes. He didn't just miss CP. He missed Dragon Tail. Oh no.
Well, all I'm trying to say is he's right now top 8. And
yeah.
I don't think. Besides that, he went to regionals and he won 2 other events. So basically, he got his invite through.
And I don't know Conan's story, but he's another American.
Conan too, actually. Conan got CP from London. So
okay, but that's just one national finish, like I had mentioned with Nick Navarre. But so this leads me to wonder, how many Americans are we expecting to see at Worlds? We, I know Gavin has been keeping pretty strict, watch over it, and so he's paying attention to every American that gets their invite. He tweets about it, every time somebody earns their invite to the World Championships. So right now we're looking at about 30 from America.
We've just hit 29.
Just hit 29. Okay.
Just hit 29. I was at 29.
And so, did he mention Terry and Justin?
He was talking about Terry in the chat.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty sure he mentioned Terry already.
Okay, so then we're looking at just about 30. I'm gonna round up, Chris.
Okay.
29 is okay to round to 30, right?
That's
But how many more do you guys think we'll end up getting? With only one event left. We've got some mid seasons, but really it's just nationals. So
and there's one more regional too.
Oh yes, some people will be going to the Mexico City regional. I keep forgetting about it. It's over for the Americas, but it's not over for everyone.
No, there's still people that are gonna go out to that, and we might see an invite out of it. We don't know yet.
The special event in Ohio as well.
And the special event in Ohio. So there's still stuff going around.
There's still CP to be gained.
Yeah, there's still people out there. I know Rajan was actually talking about how he has 2 mid-season showdown spots left.
Yeah.
And
that's worth 100 points right there.
That's worth 100 points, and he only needs, 80, I think? Or something like that?
Mm-hmm,
He's close. He's pretty much there. So someone like Rajan, maybe like Steven, yeah, he might be able to sneak in there. I know he needs like 50 more points, I believe, or something like that. But there's a lot of players that are really close. They're just there, and they just need one more finish. Like I believe Tristan Medina is also there. So we might be seeing a few more sneak in through there. But overall, if we're going to talk like how many people we're expecting, I've been asked this question a lot already, and I keep saying around. I'm going to say either mid 40s to like low 50s. I'm going to assume.
Okay, and that we're talking about just America,
Just
for
America,
the
yeah.
people like if you're wondering if you didn't catch it all. But yeah, we're just talking about America. We don't follow the European scene as intensely, but I'm sure people who discuss that more have like a good idea of what we can expect from the other 3 regions. Danny, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that it's going to be interesting to see how many people actually have to run that Internet's gauntlet. I know everybody's trying to avoid it.
Yeah, and like a lot of
everybody
people,
I've been talking to has at least.
you keep hearing people like say like the goal is to get top 64 internets because we know the top 128 is not going to happen. We need 500 something people to get it, and we can't really expect it. So there are a lot of people saying I want to get like top 64 internets. The lowest CP margin to get their Worlds invite, and so that means there's going to be a lot of people gunning for it, like you had mentioned. Getting through that gauntlet.
Which
Yeah.
makes it harder.
It actually makes it scarier too, because if you have a bad day, that just ends the season.
Mm-hmm.
So I know my plan, at least. I haven't gotten my Worlds invite yet, but I'm trying to put myself as close to that position as possible, and hopefully not rely on Nats. I'll have to see how my next few events pan out,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a scary thought for me, knowing that I could very well have to play this out at Internets and hope for the best.
It's just scary because you gotta keep in mind that's where the best of the best players are, and no one's gonna. Well, unless you're like really good friends with them, everyone wants that day 2 invite. Everyone wants that I don't know how much it's gonna be for the prize money, but
Yeah.
everyone wants that prize money. Everyone wants that free trip
Skip
to
that.
California.
Yeah. Skip the day too.
Yeah. So
Skip
no
day
one's
1.
really gonna be like feeling bad for you unless like they're really good friends with you at that point. It's like no one's gonna feel bad for you.
Yeah,
No
you're not
one's
going to get sympathy
You're not
wins.
getting sympathy. You're getting all out from
Plus
like,
that
the
entry
top,
fee.
top players.
You're paying $60 to go as far in that tournament as you can.
Exactly.
And it's
So-
not even like you're fighting typical American players too, because they're also flying
Yeah.
Europeans.
Yeah,
in.
the best of the
Exactly.
best from the other regions are coming to this. That's going to be. I wanted to mention that. That's going to make this international different. Different than our past nationals.
Yes.
That what we had experienced in past years. We have some seriously strong competitors coming from overseas, and that's going to make it even harder. Round 1 you could face somebody who's
Marcus.
got Marcus like
You can play
Stad.
Marcus.
No, I don't even want to think about that, man. That's, facing Marcus round 1,
Javi.
somebody has
Javi.
to do it at every tournament.
Nah.
Somebody has to play those players at every tournament.
That's rough.
You
They
don't
could
want
play
to be
each
that
other.
guy.
They could also play each other. It's big for a lot of people. No one's safe. For all we know, someone from Europe could just come in and just get their invite. Wolf could very well just win internets. He's good enough. He's like
Done it before.
He's hungry too. Like
Hungry like the wolf.
yeah, he's hungry like a wolf. There's a lot of people that are coming into this like I'm gonna win this. I'm gonna get that day 2. I'm gonna go straight in, and I'm gonna prove that I'm like a top player. And you're gonna have to play really hard in that. And there's a lot of people I know who can do it, but Pokemon's a very scary game, and in the end, it's gonna come down to whoever comes up with the best medical and is playing their game that day. So, that's why I think it's such a cool feat to be able to get that day 1 invite at least before internets,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have to worry about the gauntlet. Instead, you can kind of just prepare yourself for nationals and prepare yourself to maybe soar above everyone else.
Yeah.
and
Find that medical, like
find
you had
that
said.
medical.
Take a little bit more risks instead of having to play it safe, just trying to earn CP.
Exactly.
Really try to soar high above the competition. Before we do wrap up, Danny, do you have a number of Americans you're thinking for Worlds? I don't know if you actually ended up saying one.
I haven't actually been watching the number of
Yeah,
invites
I
as
haven't been tracking
closely.
it, so
I've been more concerned with, I guess, tournament results instead
Yes,
of
yeah,
the actual
yeah.
number. But I would assume that around 50 would be an accurate number.
Mhm.
I would maybe guess 50 to 60.
yeah.
Because I believe, I would hope that most of the top 64 are people that actually need it.
Yes.
And I'd like to see that, ideally. I'd like to see a lot of my friends get that invite that they've been fighting so hard for. It's the culmination of a whole year of work, you know, doing American events, traveling a lot. So that's what I'm hoping for myself and for other people going through that struggle, that grind.
I'm gonna go, like a little bit more towards the high end, like you had said, just maybe like around 60 is what I'm thinking. That means a lot of people are going to have to wrap up because considering we're only halfway there. But we've got several events that I mentioned, mid-season still to go, the special event, another regional, and nationals, which will reward a lot of CP. So some big events left to close that final gap for people, and I really think that people are going to be able to make it. So I'm leaning towards 60. Early in the season, I was thinking it was going to be like towards 70, and so, yeah. I don't know. I just like.
I was thinking towards like 30, dude.
The bar is
I'm not
pretty
talking
high.
early. I'm not talking about early, but I was thinking like 70. But yeah, I don't know. Like we're looking at this 50 range, and I feel like that is bigger than what people had thought at the very beginning when they saw that 500 in the
Definitely bigger
payouts.
than I thought. Like,
But all right, yeah, we're kind of battling on. So hopefully you guys are still paying attention to us. We've been talking for quite a long time, and I'm sure we could talk for a whole lot more. So maybe we'll just record a second episode while sitting here with these guys. But I kid. Thank you so much to you guys. Thanks to Danny and Chris for being on. I kind of just forced them in here. They're trapped in my basement against their will.
Save
So if
Mom?
these are their cries for help. Don't actually call the police, but but yeah, thank you guys for being on the show with me. It was really fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Because like we've been talking Pokemon all weekend, but it's nice to kind of structure things and really digest some certain topics.
I don't know. This is my second time on here, and I always have a good time. It's always a pleasure talking about like just regionals, just about results. I'm big on analyzing things, so I enjoy just being able to put what I see into like I guess the ears of
The ears of the listeners.
The ears of the listeners, and hopefully like they can get something out of it because I'm a fan of seeing people improve and do better. I'm a fan of those stories, so hopefully everyone else enjoyed us having us being here, and thank you again for having us, dude.
Yeah, it was my first time on here, but I had a really good time. Like Chris, I think that's why we get along so well. I also like to analyze things, just breaking things down, simplifying them, and talking them out. And I think I'm hoping that with this episode we kind of broke something down for the listeners out there.
Yeah.
Hopefully gave them
Totally.
a better understanding of our experiences through Madison and where we're at mentally with the game. And thank you.
Oh, of course. Yeah, so that's that'll be it for us. Just remember that you can find us on iTunes, and please give us your feedback. Whether it's email or you can send us messages on Twitter. Yeah, we really just want to hear from you guys. Questions, we'll answer them. I heard from a lot of people over the weekend at Madison, so shout outs to all you guys that talked to me, and I'm sure Steven would say the same thing if he was here, because I know Steven got to hear from a lot of the people that listen. So we really do appreciate all of you guys, and talking to you guys is really such a nice experience. There will be more episodes coming out before Nationals, but do come talk to us at Nationals. Steven and I love to talk to people, so if you want to say hi, don't feel afraid. We want to hear what you guys think of the show, and we love to meet people who are fans. So I guess that's just about it. Besides, we're going to go ahead and plug in all our Twitters. You can follow me at Super Morioka, but not actually because that's Steven, but still do follow Steven. I am at Lexicon VGC, and Chris, people can follow you at?
I'm at Chris Danzo.
At Chris Danzo, and Danny?
And mine is at I'm Jabberwocky, I-M, and then the word Jabberwocky.
Jabberwocky. All right. So, yeah, stay tuned for more, guys. We look forward to giving you more Hypervoice content. Later.
Bye.
Hey.